How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
What's up, man?
Hey,
How
nice.
you going, huh?
Good.
Good.
Nick, are you able to appreciate all that you accomplished as such a young player?
That's pretty loud. I'm very grateful to accomplish many things that I've accomplished at my age. The sky's the limit.
I think it was your mom that said you took a pay cut to stay at Michigan State. I guess what went into that decision and why stay at the Michigan State program?
Could you repeat that?
I think it was your mom earlier it might have been April, she said that you took there were other offers from NIL and money that would have been more than what you got at Michigan State, but you stayed. So I'm curious what went into that decision.
I mean, the great saying, all money is not good money. So, I'm building something here at Michigan State, a foundation, a brotherhood, a family, and I think that's more important than money. I think family and God is more important than materialistic things.
Nick, what is it about Jonathan Smith that you were willing to say, yeah, I'm not willing to just jump for more money and build an arena? What is it about him? Because before Michigan State, he was very well respected for his ability to develop talent in relationships. Would you talk about your relationship with him, please?
So I'm pretty sure everyone can say this, but you can see his demeanor. He's very quiet. He's very to himself. But and that's very much like me. So I would say that's one of the things that stands out. We have that in common, and then it's his vision. He may not speak a lot. You may not see him speak a lot, but when you talk to him personal and one-on-one, and when you talk to the team, you see his vision and you see that he's very much capable of doing it. He's very family oriented, and the way he just goes about everything is something that I look up to because that's what men do.
Do you feel like you matured over the course of last season and going into now?
Most definitely.
What does that do for you at wide receiver?
It gives me a little more stability. It gives me a little more comfortability at the line. It slows me down. Everyone's trying to play fast, but sometimes you got to slow down to get everything right, the details, the small stuff, and just going through freshman year, I feel like I was probably thrown in the fire a little bit, but it kind of helped me realize that being thrown in the fire is not always so bad.
What do you do to build off of last season?
I piggyback on some of the stuff that I did last season. I look at certain clips, certain routes. Maybe some of the reps that I didn't win, and some of the reps that I could have won. And I look at that stuff and see what I could have done differently to maybe change the outcome of that play.
You said part of the reason why you stuck around Jonathan Smith, that's what men do. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So the way he just runs our program, he's a man of great will. He's again very family oriented. He'll probably have his practice for a few on Sunday, and then probably everyone goes to church or something. But the way he goes about it is something that I look up to. As like a father figure and someone that's a great role model, and I think that's what a man is. And just seeing that kind of spoke to me a little bit inside, and it gave me an idea of where I wanted to be at that moment.
Is that the kind of recruit he draws in?
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. He's a great guy, and he preaches that recruiting, practice. He preaches it every day. So.
Grady Kelly talked about his faith in spring ball a little bit and went really in depth. If you gave like a ballpark estimate of this team, how many of you guys are very religious and have that sense of faith?
I would say, if I can give you a percent out of 100, I would say about 80% of the team, maybe even 90. It's some guys that we're still trying to pull into that area, and not everybody is religious, so you can't force religion on anyone. So the guys who do believe though, we take it very seriously. We have Bible study. Jordan Hall leads our Bible studies and stuff, and we just believe in putting that first, because without that, it's a lot of things that we wouldn't have and we wouldn't be.
How would you say they mature in terms of the chemistry maybe he has with you guys?
His leadership has gotten a lot better. It's a lot more focus on the field, off the field. He has a chip on his shoulder, and you can see him wear it every day. He comes in there with the attitude to just grind and fight every day. You can see that he's getting better and he's building the team one by one.
Where do you think that chip comes from?
A little bit of adversity from last year. I believe so. He feel like that he left a lot on the table, and he's fighting to pick all that stuff up.
Do you feel like there's a lot of pressure on you guys to win and succeed this season?
Necessarily, not so much. It's our second year as a program. We only have 1 year together. It's our second year. I know a lot of people are expecting a lot of new things from us, and I could say there's probably a little bit of pressure. We had a lot of players to do a lot of big things, so of course there's going to be some expectations, but I feel like that we got the room to grow still and still do a lot.
What's the biggest area where you feel like you've matured physically or changed from last year?
Physically, I'm like 4.8% body fat, so it's a lot of lean there. So I gotta take care of my body a lot more, hydrate a lot more. I gotta grow up a little bit as a freshman. You're not thinking about those things too much. You just think about learning the playbook, getting in the weight room and doing stuff like that. But it's a lot more attention to details when it comes to small parts of the body and stuff like that. So I would say I've matured with just taking care of myself and doing things like that.
Do you know what you were last year at this time compared to 4.8?
As far as body weight, I think I was about maybe 11 or 10. So that was
Is that just different diet and everything?
yeah, a little bit of a different diet. Just hitting the weights a little bit more, and then also just drinking a lot more water because as you lose body weight, you need to hydrate a lot more because muscles are depending on you a lot more. So that's one thing I'm trying to do.
What was the diet from what to what?
Weight wise.
Just the change in the diet from what did you like to eat? What
So
do you now eat?
I'm an athlete, so sometimes we take the course of just eating whatever. And I realized that I was feeling sluggish and tired a lot, and just certain things in that area. So I started to eat more salads, more chicken, more light foods, and started to make a difference in my body. Started to move a lot faster, get looser. Started to drink a lot more water. Started to loosen up a little bit. The past few years I've been playing football. I've been a very tight player. Not as elusive. So that's one thing I want to work on this year is being more elusive. Making more explosive plays, and one way to do that is becoming limber and more stretchier and just flexible.
I'm sorry. So you talk about stop, start, change direction, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Nick, Tom Izzo talks about building a program where guys have to learn how to win. And as you guys are only going into second year, how is this team adjusting and learning how to become winners?
Well, part of that we're gonna see in fall camp, but just from the previous practice and stuff, it's still competitive, and we're working really hard. Our offense is becoming a little bit more explosive day by day. The attention to details and certain stuff, and you watch film from last year. We left a lot of the details out on certain plays and stuff like that. So it may have went in and out one year last year, but we're very much paying more attention to detail this year.
Not many sophomores come to Big Ten Media Days. Do you kind of consider yourself a leader on this team, and do you feel any pressure on that at all?
Most definitely, I feel a little bit of pressure, but with pressure comes responsibility, and I've been pretty responsible my whole life, so it's not too much. God gives His soldier the hardest battle, so I'm very grateful to be in the position that I'm in.
What was your reaction when you found out that coach wanted to bring you?
So most people will be like, oh, it's so exciting to go to media day. I'm not gonna say that I wasn't excited, but I don't always have the same reaction as everyone else. I'm very low demeanor and very to myself. So my mom's calling me. She's like, oh my God, you're going to Vegas for media day. And I was like, I already know, Mom. It's not nothing big, but I am grateful here to be representing our team and just here to represent Spartan Nation.
What caused you to have that demeanor? Like growing up, how did you develop this approach to life?
To be honest, I would say a little bit of trauma. A little bit of trauma can change you in a good way or a bad way. And for me, I think it's changed me in a great way. It had me slow down. Sometimes you're moving a bit too fast, and you slow down and get to see the small details. And I would say, that's another reason why I really like Coach Smith, because he helped me in that aspect of life to slow down and start to see the small details and stuff. And I started to see the small details in my everyday life. And now that I've done it in football, I can do it in my everyday life.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.